Chapter 11 Hanging 10 Over the Apocalypse. I believe. A ubiquitous, yet, when you consider it in isolation, most curious phrase. You may have heard about the biology, but what about the etymology of belief? According to the online etymology dictionary, belief stems from an Old English word and once meant trust in God. This made belief a close bedfellow of faith. But with the approach of the spiritual materialist split known as the Enlightenment, where soul and body were declared by church and state to have parted ways, we in the West gradually began to lose our faith as belief was morphing to mean merely whatever is believed. In the process, belief got a bum rap, as in the phrase blind belief. Believers were lampooned by the enlightened as playing a foolish, perhaps dangerous game of blind man's bluff with nature, aka God. Show me the proof became the order of the day as the scientific method turned into the only believable method of apprehending so-called reality. That is, until quantum mechanics burst reality's Newtonian bubble by showing that the simple act of observing a scientific experiment can change its outcome. In recent years, some have even attempted to deconstruct the notion of belief itself, pointing to the potential tyranny of belief as a reason not to believe anything. Yet, try as the controllers of religious thought, the high priests of materialism, and the rebels without a clue resisting them both might to co-opt, subvert, and eradicate belief, respectively, it stubbornly persists. Belief hangs around because it's natural. At the core, humans aren't built to simply make believe. More fundamentally, we're made to believe. When all is said and done, it's through belief that we construct the good, the bad, and the ugly of our reality. Apparently, we're capable of being made to believe anything, even that we should believe in nothing. We can be brainwashed, bamboozled by a simple commercial on TV or a seemingly routine news story. We can also harness the immense power of belief in the self-healing nature of our biology, as championed by epigeneticist Bruce Lipton. Belief that we ourselves, like Gandhi or Thoreau, have the power to make the world better. Belief in the ability of our consciousness to alter reality, for better or worse, leading to greater discernment in how we employ belief. Blind belief may well lend itself to destruction, but belief with eyes and heart wide open is the engine of creativity. Consider the immense power of the placebo effect to cure many diseases written off by the medical mafia as incurable. The tragic irony for those who accept the myopic perspective of medical authorities is that most illnesses are only incurable if you believe they are. I think, therefore I am, stated Descartes, who was dead wrong. The truth is, we are, therefore we think. The world's most venerable wisdom traditions, for all their cosmetic differences, tend to agree on one all-important point. Consciousness informs everything. Something strikingly similar to a thought appears to have created the world. There's really no such thing as thoughtlessness. All beings, objects, and phenomena are imbued with sentience. We've been told that our mind is our brain, but mind is really all around us. Philosopher Teilhard de Chardin famously called humanity's collective mind the noosphere. This is just a descriptive term. It points to an essence, an integral part of ourselves, yet fails to capture our essence because it can't be captured. The unmeasurable is maddening to the rationalist, the realist. The ineffable is, if you inhabit Baudrillard's desert of the real, like a splinter in your mind, as Morpheus would say, driving you mad. That which can't be weighed and measured must be eradicated, and if that fails, It must be violently denied. Essence, that field of creative potential from which we spring and to which we return, cannot be seen, tasted, felt, touched, or heard. Nevertheless, it's like belief, essential to our humanity. We can't exist without our essence, just as we can't last long without something to believe in, for good or ill. Me, I believe in signs. I believe guidance is always there for the following, if only we're willing to listen to our essence, which tends to communicate with us through symbols. I suppose I was always somewhat eccentric in my worldview. Reality never did seem quite real to me, or rather, it seemed a lot more than just real. An albino owl was never simply an albino owl, if you know what I mean. It was a sign of something bigger, more fundamental than itself, a fleeting symbol keyed to an unchanging cosmic alphabet I began learning to read before I was taught my letters. Call me a Platonist, but at 4 years old I didn't know who Plato was, and even if I did, wouldn't have been impressed if I'd met the guy. All I knew was that owl was a messenger from somewhere else. A few years ago, I suddenly found myself feeling intensely down about the state of the world. This was only months after Byron's suicide. In retrospect, I'm sure my power animal had already gone missing, leaving me defenseless against my inner demons. I was still rehabbing my busted knee, which was finally strong enough to body surf a little. The problem was that it was December, the worst time of year for surfing on my small island, given the chilly temps and puniness of the waves. Surfing, when the conditions allow for it, is a panacea. I was amazed to learn there are French doctors who prescribe surfing for a huge range of ailments, from mental illness to cardiovascular disease. I guess art isn't the only alternative medicine that can heal the mind and heart. I recently made the following humorously true sentiment available on t-shirts and other merchandise. Enjoy checking it out along with many other images and quotes I've uploaded to my account at sol-luckman.pixels.com. I bounced a check. My toilet overflowed. I developed a toothache. I lost my job. I went surfing. It was a great day. That December, though, with the ocean as flat as the Great Lakes, and coming off a week's worth of subarctic drizzle that waterlogged my days with despair, I couldn't help wondering if there was any reason, any at all, to hope for a brighter future. Lots of people sure as hell didn't think so. Depression was reaching epidemic proportions, not just in America, but worldwide. For decades, people had been popping Prozac like candy, and now they were dying in droves trying to cover up their pain with opioids. As soon as the weather cleared up, I decided to go for a stroll along the shore to see if I could establish a beachhead of optimism in the bleak mental and emotional Cold War I'd been fighting lately. I told myself I wanted a sign things would start to improve soon, that the evil planetary controllers known to those of us in the conscious resistance as the Cabal would be disempowered and brought to justice, and the world would, at long last, begin to brighten. Just then, as I waded morosely in the shallow surf, a starfish washed up over my toes. It seemed perfectly formed, yet when I held it in my palm and examined it, I saw that 3 of its limbs had regrown from what must have been a gruesome dismemberment. Gruesome dismemberment could describe many of my losses over the years, from my health in my 20s, to my mother, to cancer in my 30s, to Byron in my 40s. I thought of all the Chiron in my astrological chart, how for years I was the epitome of the wounded healer. Then I extrapolated this notion to the earth and all her children, striving for a healthier, happier way forward, and floundering along without much to show for it. Maybe we're like this starfish, I said to myself. We've allowed the cabal to cut our legs off. We couldn't stand on our feet if our lives depended on it, which they do, by the way. Through our indoctrinated beliefs and our limitations, we've forgotten that within us exists the power of belief and our ability to regenerate ourselves, individually and collectively. A few days later, I took another beach walk. It was cloudy and looked like rain again, perfect for my mood that still felt like rain on the inside. Rain did, in fact, come splattering down the instant I walked back in my door. This suggested there had been some divine timing to my insightful excursion. I strolled along beside the pathetically small waves, wondering how to navigate this insane present where, judging by the stream of cabal-based newspeak that passes for facts bombarding us 24/7, George Orwell was quite the oracle. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. As I approached the turning point of my walk, I was thinking about all the wagging of the dog in Syria and Ukraine, the cabal-sponsored demonization of Russia and Putin, the latest mind-controlled terrorist shootings in Paris, complete with passport-toting dead perpetrators, aka patsies, contamination of the water supply through fracking, global genocide via biology-altering needling. You get the picture. I was back in a nasty funk. Chiron was kicking my ass again. Then a new thought came to me. Actually, it was an old thought, one that hadn't occurred to me in a while. The thought was to simply surf over these trying times like riding a big beach break that would soon run its course and deposit me safely back on the sand. In that exact instant, no joke, a black object about the size of a notebook washed up out of the foam and knocked against my feet. I picked it up. It was, honest to God, an old surfboard fin. My essence was speaking to me again, telling me it's okay to believe we're meant to strap on our wetsuits and hang 10 over the apocalypse, until it's revealed as merely a revelation of the beginning, not a declaration of the end.